Hello, everyone. This is Dauntless ASMR. Welcome to my first ASMR video that has an introduction by me, and it's necessary. This is a new category on my channel. It will be soft speaking. I will be basically giving you guys a short story I wrote many, many years ago. It is horror based, so if that's not your thing, please click off the video now. I have tons of other relaxing videos on my channel that you can watch instead. For those of you curious, interested, this story is called Angel or Angela. A little bit of background. This story takes place in two separate time periods. One of them is 1995, and the other one is the late 19th century. I will be playing two parts. One will be Dr. Adams in 1995. The other will be Dr. Stevens in the late 19th century. Now, even though this is a short story doesn't really mean that it's short. It means that it's a story that you're supposed to get through from beginning to end in one sitting. I've seen some short stories that were practically novel length. Because of the format that I'm using here, there will be a part 2, maybe a part 3. But I really hope you guys enjoy this story. I think it's one of the best I've ever written. And yes, this story is 100% mine. I came up with it, no one else. This is my story, and I do hope you guys enjoy it. Just to make things a little bit easier, since I will be playing two different parts, basically, every single time you guys see my hands, that means we're in 1995. Every time you guys see the green skull that for some reason comes out looking gray on my camera, we are in the late 19th century, just to make things easy on you guys. Also, since the story takes place over the course of a handful of years in the 19th century, I will be rotating the skull to show the passage of time. I hope that makes sense. Okay? We're going to get started in 3, 2, 1. I trust that you read what I handed you. Well, you're a colleague and I wanted your opinion. Yes. Well, it seems the pages were anonymously mailed here yesterday, and they made for a very fascinating read. I did check the second volume of the director's journal, and all of the pages fit. They're numbered, they fit, and they tell an interesting story. I mean, well, let's go over what took place. After all, I do value your opinion. I will never forget my arrival at this horrific place. On the outside, it seems pleasant enough. I've been practicing medicine for a few years. Being a young man, the older doctors tend to not look upon you favorably to begin with, especially if you have new ideas. And when you have a reputation for being outspoken, as well as being a young doctor, they tend to dislike you rather intently. The coachman picked me up from the station on time. He seemed a very warm and pleasant fellow. That was nice. I could tell, however, that he was not his own man. Someone else clearly owned both the carriage and the horse. But, as I said, the coachman was friendly and behaved towards me in a very professional manner. I had a few questions, and he answered them to the best of his ability. The town here in upstate New York did not want the asylum built anywhere near it. So it was built on the very outskirts of town, a massive place up on a hill that was more like a mountain than anything else. The west side opened up to a thick forest. The east side opened up to a slight drop, followed by plains without any trees. The south side was the one that had the road, which led to the town. And the outskirts of the town were very much as far away as you could imagine, probably more so. The north side of this rather huge, ugly asylum, well, there really wasn't much of a north side. It was a sheer drop-off, a cliff. I did not wish to be here. However, at the hospital, I had made the mistake of very loudly pointing out that the director was an incompetent moron. There's more to it than that. But I was outspoken, and I ended up losing that job. I was hired by the director of this asylum, Dr. Davis, because I had saved his son's life during my Army days, and because during my Army days I was briefly placed in charge of a group of men who had lost their minds, apparently having done a good enough job to be hired here. I despised this place from the moment I saw it. Some places are just wrong, and this was one of them. I met Dr. Davis. He was a plump, bald man, very cheerful, very short. He took me around after formal introductions and tea, introduced me to a few of the patients. The ones that stand out most, I shall never forget them. There was Dr. Weber. Well, not really a doctor, but he genuinely believed he was one, and there was no convincing him otherwise. A hopeless case, like many at this place. One of the things I hated about this asylum is that the most extreme and hopeless cases were sent here. And after consulting with Dr. Weber, it was very clear that he had some medical knowledge, that he was very intelligent, and completely insane. Next, I was introduced to Maggie, an older, slightly plump woman who believed herself to be the Queen of England. Yes, she spoke as though she was the Queen. She was very gracious, and she carried herself in a dignified manner. She considered this miserable place to be a safe haven of sorts. Apparently, she believed assassins were trying to find her, and that she was temporarily being housed here for her own safety. A very sad case. Hopeless. Finally, there was the writer, Mr. Jenkins. He wrote some of the most beautiful poetry I had ever seen. Absolutely amazing. He wrote novels, he wrote books. I was shocked to learn that Dr. Davis had supplied him with a fountain pen and ink. Normally, such things would never be supplied to the mentally insane. But apparently, Mr. Jenkins had done an excellent job over the years of earning Director Davis's trust. Being new here, I decided not to argue the point. After meeting a few more patients, I noticed something peculiar. A young girl, maybe 9 or 10 years old, in a black dress with a white collar, black hair, and what I initially thought were very dark brown eyes, but Director Davis insisted that they were black eyes. Now, I had heard of people having black eyes. I didn't believe it. I always figured they were dark brown. But no, her eyes were genuinely black. She seemed to be a very pleasant young girl. And an odd feeling came over me. I was not happy to be here, but I maintained my professionalism. Strangely, being in her presence made me feel calm, the more time I spent in her presence, the calmer and, dare I say it, somewhat happier I became at the situation here. I was very surprised to see her. Returning to the director's office, I asked him about her. Apparently, she was found in the woods with complete memory loss a short while ago. She had no recollection who she was. The director said we had to call her something. One of the hopeless patients took one look at her and said she was an angel. But because of his very heavy accent, it sounded as though he had called her Angela instead of Angel. Well, that was good enough for the director. So, Angela she was. Ironically, even though she was technically a patient, she could go anywhere in the asylum that she chose to go, unescorted. Now, this was really too much. It really was. I was about to speak up, but I decided to bite my tongue. I had almost ruined my medical career. This was my last chance, and I was not about to screw it up. During the following few days, I observed Angela. She was warm and pleasant and smiled occasionally. She even helped out the cooks in the kitchen. This was, again, far from proper. But, again, I bit my tongue. Soon afterwards, I was introduced to the most violent patient in D Ward. His name was Dross.